Still have COVID. Um, but I just wanted to capture, I guess, my heartbreak over the state of the world today and how crazy it all is. Do you all feel it, or is it just me? I mean, we got economic problems, we got healthcare problems, we just are still in the dealing with the global pandemic. I got COVID right now. Now, I don't think I'm going to die from it, but a lot of people did. And that's a scar and a trauma that, we're collectively recovering from somehow. Um, this state of education today has a lot of room for improvement. Oh God, the American criminal justice system and so many justice systems around the world have tons of room for improvement, although it's hard to beat how broken America's is. I'd say ours is absolutely the worst. I could go on a rant about that, but I'll spare you. And the people who are our politicians largely become involved in politics, a lot of them, for ego, for fame, for power, for influence, for money. And so even our political representatives who should be advocating to make all these systems better somehow participate frequently in not fixing things and making it worse. Like we've had the same families in political power like over and over again for decades, and they're not fixing it. They're not making the world better. I would say that most Americans feel as if life has gotten harder and harder and harder over time. Our political representatives aren't helping make things better for us. If I could wish anything for how governments function, I would just tell them their mission statement should be very simple. And by the way, do governments even have mission statements? I don't know that they do, which is a flaw. But the real purpose of why government should exist is to reduce human suffering and enhance human thriving, to be adaptive and intelligent and collaborative and collective, and to tap into the wisdom and resources of the collective, to empower everybody as much as possible, for everybody to count, for every voice to count, for every voice to be heard and to matter. Like that's what democracy is about. Everyone matters. But that's never been our America. There's always been a caste system and a hierarchy. It's racism and classism, greed and fear have ruled the day for too long. And now we're in the modern world with modern thinking and modern tools and artificial intelligence and the internet and so many other things that make our ability to come up with a new model of governing so much better and more doable. I really think humanity needs to be innovative and creative and humane and considerate and really spend a lot of time listening to people who are different from us, because that's where we see the human condition and have empathy and compassion, and where we learn tolerance and love and loving kindness and forgiveness. There's so much wrong in our world. I feel the overwhelm of it. I cry for humanity. I do. At the local level, in my personal sphere of contacts and family and friends and people I know, there are a lot of people doing great, and there are a lot of people I know who are truly suffering and forgotten, and they're hard to fix. It's hard to fix. The system is dysfunctional, and so many people are in the system and incentivized by how it is that they don't want to change. They're afraid of losing their jobs and their incomes. So I think of the criminal justice system and all the law enforcement, and court staff, and attorneys, and correctional officers, and wardens, and like all the prison staff. And like there's so many people involved in America's mass incarceration and excessive sentencing humanitarian crisis that, it's just, they don't want to have to switch. They don't want to have to switch from working in a prison to working in a school. They don't want to have to switch from working in a court to working in a community center. And because of those attitudes, the resistance to change, they're really holding on tight to these systems, which we all can see are really failing humanity. So my hope is that we can figure out a better way. I'm working on it. I'm sorry it's been slow. I've got so much going on in my life, but the Modern Polymath Institute is our attempt to organize the smart, good-hearted people and figure out what we can do to either advise the governments or create a new system of self-governance, which we could transition to over time. Something like someone's got to organize us to figure this out. And it's a tall order. It's a lot of work. It's intimidating. It's an experiment. I don't even know that it will work. All I know is that planet Earth and Team Humanity is struggling, and the old systems are failing us. And the people in the old systems don't seem to want to modernize and change and become more humane and adaptive and intelligent and effective. And so by some method, the others of us need to figure out how to organize and make the world a better place for all people wherever possible. And other living creatures too, I might add. Our planet matters in all of this, and other conscious sentient life forms matter in all of this as well. So I'm really hoping humanity will choose to upgrade itself instead of continuing to be a cancer to itself, and really think about how we can spread loving kindness, learning, understanding, adaptation into how we operate as a collective. Because there's a lot of room for improvement, don't you think? And the power of intelligence cannot be overstated. Intelligence is what saves us, okay? And mixed with benevolence and loving kindness, like let's not be sociopaths and psychopaths and narcissists and just care about ourselves and not care about other people. We need to care about other people. We need to be loving. I mean, Jesus and so many religious leaders have tried to teach us cave persons a very simple message, which is, well, treat other people like you'd want to be treated. Be forgiving. Be considerate and loving and kind. And you know what happens if we all did that? If we all took that to heart and really lived according to the values of Jesus Christ, for example, I believe we'd make a heaven on earth. I believe we would. And if we don't do that, what we're doing is we're making a hell on earth for a lot of people, while a minority are cozy and comfy and have excessive wealth and privilege, but seem sort of unconcerned for how they can use their resources to help others. The Native Americans believed that a truly wealthy person was so wealthy they could just give stuff away. Being generous was a sign of true wealth. Well, real wealth is not just money. There are many different kinds of wealth. Happiness is a kind of wealth. Having loving relationships, a healthy life, your own mental health. There are so many kinds of wealth that exist besides amassing money in an account that is just there on a piece of paper you see once a month or something. Like, how much money does any one person need? That's a good question for humanity to figure out. And I mean, there are so many people unhoused in America today, people who can't cope with the difficulty of modern life. They sort of fall through the cracks. And I do think it's incumbent upon those of us who can function to figure out how to help them the best we can. Now, we might not be able to give them the highest quality of living, but we could help them live a decent life, have their basic needs met. I would love for all of humanity to have their basic needs met. And by basic needs, I mean housing with plumbing, the ability to get clean water to drink, food to eat, safety, security, love, education, healthcare, maybe transportation even. Just basic needs. Everybody deserves that. And if everybody got their basic needs met, I bet you so many of the problems of human bad behaviors would just stop, because trauma and survival mode drive human beings to do bad things. And so then the rest of us have to deal with their bad behaviors. So a world where everybody has their basic needs met is my goal. I don't believe that the 195 governments that exist in the world are going to succeed in that endeavor. I think they're very self-serving, inefficient, unproductive, old school, bureaucratic, not adaptive, not intelligent a lot of the times. Obviously, some governments are better than others, but I worked in government a long time and I just lost faith that it's going to save us, you know? Like, it seems to me they actually make it worse a lot of the time. So while everyone's interested in the American presidential election, I'm over here like, well, I don't even think it matters who's elected because America's on the downward spiral already, and I don't think it's going to stop. And planet Earth more largely has excessive amounts of human suffering. And the governments of the world now have had decades to improve the state of affairs. And while technology and longevity and healthcare in certain fields have made advancements, overall, I would say that many people are still suffering and there's still a lot of room for improvement. And the government design, the way it's set up, I don't think is going to cure our ills. If it could, it would have done it already. Like, if Trump could have saved us, or Biden, or the Obamas, or the Bushes, like, if those families could save us, they would have done it by now, wouldn't they? The Clintons even, like, I can't even. Like, the people who we defer to fix things, they can't. You know what? Here's why they can't. Because political representatives are temporary and they're in the minority of government. And what's the majority of government are non-political career civil servants who usually have unions and exist in a culture that is designed, intentionally or not, but it's designed to drive down performance. The culture of government is, let's all take it easy, nobody work too hard, and let's keep expectations low, and we'll all get paid no matter what we do. And so you got a lot of government employees who are disengaged and who are just there for the paycheck, the bonuses, the benefits, the perks, the retirement pensions. And so we, the citizens, are paying about a third, some of us even a half of our income for this government machine, which we think is politics. But the politics are a small, I don't know the numbers, but I'd guess it's like 10% or less of our government machine are the people we elect. The majority of the people running our government we do not elect, and they're hard to even get rid of. They burrow in, and they're not the best and the brightest. People go to that kind of work to have job security and a decent pay. Most people in government aren't there. You know why I was in government? I wanted to help make the world a better place. And I thought that's what government's for. And I was really naive. It took me some time, but eventually I figured out government's not helping make the world a better place. Actually, just look at the American criminal justice system. They're harming us en masse. En masse. God, I'm trying to avoid going on a rant about the criminal justice system in America, but it's a humanitarian crisis. I'll say that. If you want to learn more, check out my website, www.prisontransparency.com. That will give you just a glimpse of what our government is doing to victimize millions of Americans today. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap this up, but I just wanted to come to you today and say that as much as everybody's paying attention to the presidential election in America, I wish we would pay more attention to the deeper issues, the systemic issues, the government machine more largely, like zoom out. Is it working? Is it serving us? Is there room for improvement? How can we figure it out? How can we organize and govern ourselves in a way that's actually intelligent and humane and flexible and adaptive and just really intelligent, rooted in trying to reduce human suffering and enhance human thriving. Like, that's what good self-governance would do and would look like. But instead, we're stuck with this ancient monstrosity of a broken Goliath of a machine, which continues to cost a lot of money and fail us. And no matter who we elect, it still is going to fail us. That's the bottom line for me. So I encourage you all to use your own intelligence, use your own hearts to tune in and look around and notice that government, the way it is, needs to do better. I mean, I think I have so many statistics in my head I might be forgetting, but I think it's around 10 to 15% of the American population, something like that, works for some form of local, state, or federal government. So we have a large percentage of the American population that is going to be resistant to change because they don't want to lose their jobs. They're afraid of that. So maybe if we could come up with a plan where we promise nobody's going to lose their job, you're going to have a job. What you do might have to shift. But like, can we all agree that we need to rethink how we're doing this self-governance thing? We, the people, matter. The American experiment was just that. And I think we've strayed real far from what our founding fathers had originally envisioned. I think our government has gotten way too big and powerful and malevolent and corrupt. And it's nobody's fault in particular. It's the kind of thing that happens when large systems engage in, the phenomenon of emergence. Like, we have unintended outcomes because everybody's just following their own little incentive structure. Like, let me go along with my blinders on and my little swim lane and like not think about how other people are or how what I do impacts other parts of the system. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand of government is doing. It's too big and unintelligent and harming people because the incentive structures that we've baked into our system, intentionally or not, are leading to negative outcomes. And resistance to change is rampant in government. I know because I was in the government machine for 15 years myself. I've also studied America's criminal justice system as an academic doctor for about 4 years now. And I've learned a lot. I've studied people suffering in our carceral system. I've talked to prisoners. I've talked to homeless people. I've talked to mentally ill people. I'm related to mentally ill people. I know people who have struggled with addiction issues because they're so traumatized. And I've looked at human potential through the lens of polymathy, like the people who are doing the best and thriving. And so I've really seen the whole gamut of the human experience, and it's taught me so much. And my heart breaks. My heart really breaks for the state of humanity today. And there's a lot to be excited about. And there's still so much good on our planet. And if we could only figure out how to reduce the suffering and the dysfunction and the malevolence and the hatred and the greed and the fear. And instead, if we could move towards forgiveness, loving kindness, intelligence, adaptation, understanding, acceptance, and leveraging and appreciation of diversity and equity and inclusion. Like, our diversity makes us more robust as a species, but somehow, like, I don't know. I just feel like governments are at the root of a lot of like the racism and the classism. The government made our society. They're in charge of like making our economy, helping influence our culture, setting the policies, and the agendas that they have set. Look at like slavery and segregation and what we did to indigenous people in North America and what we've done to other countries. Like, the government has done horrible atrocities to human beings. But somehow their psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic, harmful, sadistic behaviors have been normalized because other countries and other governments engage in inhumane treatment of conscious, sentient human beings as well. So I look forward to a world where power is distributed, resources are properly distributed, where we have empathy and compassion as like the default for how we should be, as opposed to being competitive or spiteful or hateful or judgmental to people who are different. We can learn so much. And I love difference, by the way. I've been to, it's 43 countries now on 6 continents. It's one of my favorite ways of learning is travel and talking to people and seeing how they live. I've seen the favelas. I've seen the townships. I've seen the homeless encampments. And I've seen excessive wealth, where people have so much money they don't even know what to do with it. And I just wish humanity would get smarter and more loving. The solution is simple, do unto others as you'd like done unto you. And if you were in a hardship, wouldn't you want someone to figure out how to help you get out of it? So, anyway, I'm working on organizing something called the Modern Polymath Institute, which I hope will help in identifying a strategic plan to get humanity back on track. We can advise the existing governments, or we can just try to create a new system of self-governance somehow and maybe transition, like get cooperative involvement from governments and give a new experiment a try. The American experiment that was initially set out has failed, in my view. America is broken. It's on a downward trajectory. The wealth and the power we once had, the respect we had internationally it's on the decline. And it should be. That's what we deserve. We don't deserve to be the leading power in the world anymore when we have modern day slavery, mass incarceration, excessive sentencing, excessive government monitoring and policing. And like what our government is doing to us is something I would call victimization, dehumanization. It's a kind of terrorism, I would say. So we got to figure that out. And I know it's daring of me to use these words and to describe our government in this way. If I hadn't worked in the machine and studied it as deeply as I would have, I wouldn't use those words. But I've got clarity now on this, the state of our government today. I've learned a lot. I've heard a lot of perspectives. There are so many people in government who agree with me. They're just too afraid to say it because they don't want to lose their income, because then they'll be in survival mode. And so we got to figure out the economic issues for sure. I think we really need a universal basic income. Now that AI's here, we can create tremendous productivity and wealth without humans having to do it all. And then we could spread that wealth around. So there are people struggling to find food to eat. God, I just went to Cuba, where my child refugee mother's from. Went to Cuba a few months ago, and man, there's nobody overweight there. They're all hungry, looking for their next meal. Like there's so much poverty in Cuba, and God, other pockets of the world. Oh God, in Brazil, some of the favelas are just. We're in South Africa. I've seen the townships, people living in cardboard huts or tin metal huts on the dirt. We can do better. We need to do better. So it's time to organize that effort. And I'm calling it the Modern Polymath Institute. I hope other people develop their own initiatives as well to try to rescue humanity off the cliff of our meta crises. People like me are fine, I'm going to have a roof over my head and I'm going to have food to eat. I'm fine. But I'm very worried about all the other people out there who are not fine. They need help. We need a plan. We need to use the power of intelligence and the power of our good hearts to care about other people and help. Do something. Take action. Take action that's not rooted in an ego boost or power and influence or money like our current political system is designed. But we need to rise up collectively and make a difference together in a way that distributes power and resources and helps more people, who lifts people out of poverty, gets people their basic needs met, and stops the atrocities where we kill and harm each other. I mean, the Middle East is heartbreaking. When will they forgive the past and move on? That's what I'd like to know. When will they come to a solution to both exist as neighbors and forgive the past and stop the mass murders they're doing to each other? They're a cancer on earth. Governments who will murder en masse, and they'll call it war and they'll normalize it. They turn themselves crazy and they become a cancer on the planet. Like cancer, you know what a cancer is? A cancer is like these cells in your body that kind of try to take over and kill what's there. And like, that's what is happening in the Middle East, in my view. Like they're a cancer to humanity. They're killing each other. They're killing babies. Oh God, there's just horrible atrocities happening. This is the kind of thing that takes generations to recover from. It's heartbreaking to me, the status of our world today. And I hope that we can somehow come together and figure out how to do better. That's my hope for humanity. All right. That's all for now. Bye from me and COVID. I'm going to blow my nose now. Okay, bye.